Yeah, good morning all. Today we are having our guest, Dr. Professor Abhay Kumar, Vice Chancellor of Pratap University, Jaipur, Rajasthan. He is a very renowned person with vast experience in the field of academia, industry, and entrepreneurship. He has served as Vice Chancellor in some of the reputed universities, as well as he has guided many of the students for MBA, MPhil, and he is always in limelight with all the related academic talks, especially in the current scenario, the NEP, New Education Policy. So I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Abhay Kumar. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Hari Krishnan. It is a privilege for me to be here on this platform today, and especially talking about NEP, which is a very relevant and a pertinent topic in the current scenario. So let's begin with saying that it is indeed historic for the country to get a new education policy after 34 long years. The new policy aims to pave way for transformational reforms in both school as well as higher education systems in the country. It is going to transform the entire ecosystem of education. Now, if we trace back to the British legacy, we see that the British education system was such devised, and maybe we have been following it for a number of years in India, in which we didn't want thinkers to be born. We wanted people who would just follow the footsteps of what the government would like us to do, and just let me not demean the position, but I'll allow me to say that simply clerks. That means no thinkers. So this NEP has provisions to ensure universal access to school education, for example, at all levels. Initially, I'll talk about school education for 5 minutes, because this is the input we get at higher education from the schools. So as far as school education is concerned, right from preschool to secondary, the NEP has provisions to provide universal access to everyone. These provisions would include infrastructure support, innovative education centers to bring back dropouts into the mainstream, tracking of students, their learning levels, say facilitating multiple pathways to learning involving both formal and non-formal education modes, and of course, the 10+2 structure, which has been now replaced by 5+3+3+4 curricular structure. It corresponds to the age group of say 3 to 8 years, 8 to 11, 11 to 14, and 14 to 18. Now, why is this important? Now, this will bring the uncovered age group of 3 to 6 years under the school curriculum. And it has been recognized globally as the crucial stage for the development of mental faculties of any child. Now, therefore, the school system has devised and brought certain age groups within, because we know this is going to impact in the later stages of the school education. Even the curricula and the pedagogy will aim for, say, holistic development of learners by equipping them with the 21st century skills. Reduction in curricular content, that is very important. Why? To enhance essential learning and critical thinking and have a greater focus on experiential learning. So students will have increased flexibility in the choice of subjects. There will be no rigid separation between arts and sciences, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams. And vocational education, most importantly, will start from grade 6. And this will include internships. Right from grade 6, we will start even with coding. We know that one of the, say, competitors we have, for example, I'll take the name only once, it is China. There, about 20 years back, the school children were being taught, say, internships and coding right from class 6 or even less. So what happened was they have become very good in, say, hardware. We are very good in software because of our language skills, because of our intellect and whatnot, but they are soon catching up. So we have to give our school students the opportunity to do internships and codings right from standard 6th. Now, it also advocates mother tongue, local regional languages as the medium of instruction, at least till grade 5 and preferably till grade 8 and even beyond. But no language is going to be imposed on anyone. That has to be kept in mind. Many people have asked me at many point of times that, okay, fine, you will be imposing this particular language, Hindi, for example. I said, no, it's not that. The local language prevalent in any particular region, students can be taught in that language initially, because they understand their mother tongue better than any other language initially. So that is how things would be. Now, according to the government, this policy also hopes to shift from summative assessment to a more competency-based regular assessment. That means a continuous assessment throughout the school year or school or 2 years or so. A new National Assessment Center, PARAK, Performance Assessment Review and Analysis of Knowledge for Holistic Development, will also be set up as a standard setting body. Now, let us talk about reforms in higher education. Let's stop school education at this point, having given a small preview on that. Now, NEP 2020 aims to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including both vocational as well as professional education, right from 26.3, which was in 2018, to 50% by 2035. That means it is a very tall call at present. But of course, if we all come together, we'll be able to do at least somewhere near to it. Now, this policy introduces a broad-based, multidisciplinary, holistic development, and with a flexible curricula, creative combination of subjects, again, integration of vocational and other professional education, multiple entry and exit points with appropriate certification. We all know that undergraduate education can either be of 3 or 4 years now, with multiple exit options and appropriate certification within this period. For example, certificate after 1 year, advanced diploma after 2 years, bachelor's degree after 3 years, and bachelor's with research after 4 years. Now, there is one very salient point in the National Education Policy 2020, which I would give more time to talk about right now. It is the Academic Bank of Credit. Now, this is meant to facilitate the movement of students in and out of programs and from one program to another. How? By easing the process of storing and transferring academic credits leading to any degree. Now, credits are calculated, we all know, by the number of hours of theory, tutorial, or laboratory work that a student completes in a particular course. Now, typically, we know that this is 1 hour of theory or tutorial or 2 hours of lab work per week for a semester. This is how it goes. Now, in some of the say webinars or seminars I've been asked some particular questions regarding this. People ask me, what is the Academic Bank of Credit and how will it help the student and the environment? So it is a virtual repository or a database of credits that will store online the credits earned by each student individually. Like a traditional bank, students will hold individual accounts in which they can deposit the credits earned. Say as they go through a program or do a course, they may earn these credits at different institutions, as well as the ABC will facilitate the recognition, transfer, and redemption of these credits from one course to another, from one institution to another. And each student will become an account holder, and he or she will be provided a unique identification number and standard operating procedure. Now, this service will be managed by the Ministry of Education, because you know the HECI is being construed as an overarching umbrella, say including all UGC, AICT, and many other bodies. So HECI will become, Higher Education Council of India will become the overarching body now. Now, will all the credits earned have to be earned at the same institution? This is another question people ask me. I said, no. The ABC will allow the students to choose from courses offered by different participating institutions. I'll explain about that later. Now, since a single institution may not teach every course a student is interested in, for example, they can pick what they want to study where and when, with the bank collecting all their credits. Now, these courses can lead to degrees, diplomas, or certificates. For example, I'll give you a particular situation. The last university in which I was Vice Chancellor in Himachal Pradesh, there were more than about 200 first learners, just believe me. That means their parents had never been to college. They never knew, they were not belonging to the affluent section of the society. So many would drop out after the first year because they didn't have enough money either to pursue the course, and would they would lose the entire first year fee. They would go for a job. They had to do farming. So now this ABC allows the student either to, and even the exit and multiple entry and exit points which the NEP has created, it will allow the student to go back, do some job, earn some money, come back after a year or two, do the same course, or transfer himself or herself the credits he or she has gained and join a different institution. Now, the bank is being set up to make the rigid framework of years and institutions more flexible. We had 3 years, 4 years BTech, for example, or we have 4 years B Pharma. So there's nothing a student could have done after having done 2 years. He or she had to keep on studying for the next 2 years in the same institution with the same course if he or she didn't wanted to waste the first 2 years fee they had submitted or whatever they had learned. So what will happen is that students can exit a program without completing and have the records of, say, whatever courses they have covered stored in the ABC. Now, when they are ready to rejoin a program, these credits can still be say counted towards the final degree and can be redeemed. This will allow multiple entry and exit, and it will also lead to mobility across disciplines, across institutions, and across academic programs. Now, how long will the ABC store credits? This is one other question which is very important. It cannot be n number of years. The credits stored in the ABC will be valid for a maximum of 7 years or as fixed for a specific discipline by the government. All credits will be deposited in the academic account. It will have a shelf life of at least up to 5 years, right from the date of earning the credit or as fixed by the institution, whichever may be higher. Now, how will it lead to a degree? Once redeemed, a credit cannot be used again. That we have to keep in mind. It cannot be possible that the credit earned at a particular point of time can be redeemed for the 2 different programs. It has to be exhausted in one program only. So a student must apply also to redeem the credits for a degree. Now, the academic bank of credit is not going to award degrees. This is one anomaly. The power to award degrees will remain with the eligible or the participating higher educational institutions. You know, actually, it is not ABC which is going to do anything, just a bank from which credits can be drawn. Okay, what will happen is it will provide the authenticated records of credit to the institution which has been earned by the student from other approved institutions. Okay, the ABC will also allow the student to study different courses from different disciplines without ever falling into one subject domain. For example, if I am doing engineering, it has not happened in many institutions as of now. It is in the process of implementation. What can happen is, suppose I am doing engineering, I want to study music also, learn vocal music or guitar. I am interested in sports. And if that subject exists in some other institution, I can take a transfer of credits and go there and do that course, come back and complete my course in the first institution, maybe. Now, the fee will be determined by the existing institution. It cannot be that if you go from one institution to another, you will have to comply with the fee of that existing institution. Okay. Now, what are the programs which will be covered under the scheme? Now, there are so many things which can happen because 40% of the course the government has allowed, it can happen online also. You can teach 40% of the course to the student online and rest, for example, through MOOCs, Coursera, Swayam, all these courses can be taught. Now, the most important and salient point of ABC will be, how does an institution become eligible for ABC membership? Not all institutions can become ABC members. How? If they are NAAC A grade accredited, or for example, in the top 200 to top 100 of NIRF, or there are other criteria on this basis of which the institution can be able to become a member of ABC, and migration of one student from a NAAC A accredited institution to a lower grade institution may take place, but not from a lower to a higher. Now, what will this do? This will give the impetus and give the motivation to those institutions who are not that quality conscious to try to upgrade their quality so that student mobility can happen from their institutions also or into their institutions. So this is one aspect, I think, which has to be looked into by the government also, because I have put my, in fact, I have not been very hopeful of this happening immediately. What I have written to some of the government organizations is, let even those institutions who have not come up to the considered quality participate in it, at least among those institutions which are suppose B grade or suppose say NIRF 150 or 200, to let them participate between themselves at least, so that the students can have a choice. That means the student taking admission in one of the institutions who are not NAC accredited, they will not get the opportunity. Now, the government has paid very good emphasis on research also in this. The National Research Foundation will be created as an apex body. Why? To foster a strong research culture and building research capacity across higher education. Now, what has been happening till now is that in India, we see that though good research is being done in many quarters right now, yet I would see that research has mostly been restricted to acquiring the degree of doctor, so that a faculty member can be eligible to teach somewhere. Now, that is one big thing we have to rethink about. I have been hearing news recently that the government may think of removing the hard and fact PhD as a teaching qualification in the times to come, because people from the industry who come, they are not PhDs and they are not eligible to become professors or associate professors immediately. So how can this be? We want to give the best input to the student concerned. Now, what has also been happening in India in the past few years is that research has been limited to libraries. I do my PhD, my thesis is kept in the university library or anywhere else, and that is the end of it. But what is the objective of research? The objective is that any research work must be done in tandem, in cooperation with the industry, and it should be translated into a product or service which is beneficial to the society. This is what the objective of any research should be. Like it has been happening in Western countries also, that industry sometimes is facing a particular problem. They give it to the concerned university in the area and say, please do research on it and give me a solution so that we can translate it into the benefit of the society. So India also has to start doing this. That means the universities and the industry should come together. We are talking about industry academia gaps. We are talking about industry academia divide. So we have to come together in this aspect. And one of the best possible ways which I have personally devised as Vice Chancellor Pratap University right now is that our Maharana Pratap group is almost 25 years old, having institutions and even K-12 schools in Kanpur, Delhi, Lucknow, Jaipur University we have. So now the point is that we have a very strong alumni base. The university is just 11 years young, but the alumni base of the group is also very strong. So recently during the COVID-19 pandemic, we contacted our alumni and told them that, earlier, I'll just digress a bit from the point. Earlier, what was happening was that any student would come up from a school to a college or an institute or an university. He would acquire a particular skill or a specialization, climb up the corporate ladder like myself. I had done my MBA way back in 1978-80. Okay, many were not born at that time. So after 1980, when I had specialized in marketing with super specialization in marketing research, I became vice president of the corporate world in one of the industries, steel industries. So what happened was, then I came back to academia, but I simply had one skill, one specialization that was enough for me to become almost at the top of the rung of the ladder. Now what has happened is, the corporate ladder has turned into a corporate maze. In Hindi, we call it bhool bhulaiya. That means the concerned student in the career has to maneuver through that maze, constantly upgrading, upskilling, learning, unlearning, relearning. He or she cannot think that whatever skill he has acquired during the acquiring the degree during the institution he has studied in or she has studied in, that is enough. That is not at all enough. So what I did was I contacted the alumni and told them that as you cannot remove the name of your parents from your resume any day in your life, so also you cannot remove the name of the institution from which you have graduated. You are wedded for life with the institution, and the institution is wedded for life with you. So what is going to happen? We are here for you. If you have any upskilling required, tell us at any point of time of a career. We had some certificate courses we gave them. We called some resource persons online during the COVID period. We gave them whatever skills, whatever certification we could help them with. And in turn, they gave online internships to our students, current students, a huge amount of them. That means even in terms of research, for example, this collaboration can happen. If the top rung of the ladder, say the managing director or the vice president or the president are not able to give so much time, I think the middle management level can be cooperated with. Now, again, let me talk about digital infrastructure in terms of NEP. A dedicated unit for the building of digital infrastructure, digital content and capacity building has to be created and will be created to look after the e-education needs of both school and higher education. What we have seen during the pandemic was that technology had completely disrupted education, especially higher education. We all scrambled to go online with whatever facility we had at that point of time. Many of the institutions had ready-made LMS in place. They had cloud on which they could operate, but many didn't have. So many went for WhatsApp groups, emails, chat bots. So whatever means was acquired, students were being taught. And let me place on record that, of course, I have full respect for the say health workers, for the security forces. They were all there. They were all corona warriors as we term them. But I personally feel that faculty members of the school or the higher education sector, they are also corona warriors. They have given so much time, which they would never have done in an offline teaching. Even 10 in the night, they would counsel students. So that is how I think the educators have lived up to the challenge during this pandemic. And we see that everything has come over to AI, for example. When we watch movies on Netflix or Prime Video, it gives us suggestions on the basis of our watch history. What is that? This is all AI. So AI has also disrupted everything in our life. And apart from human intelligence, I think artificial intelligence is the buzzword of the day. So technology in terms of IoT, cybersecurity, electrical vehicle engineering, these are the in things in the years to come. So the students must be properly equipped with digital content. Social media, if you operate on, it has to be digitized completely. You know why? Say about in about 6-7 years before, the attention span, the average human attention span was said to be of say about 20 seconds. Right now in 2021, it is 7 seconds. Just 7 seconds. That means if somebody is giving an advertisement on the social media, he or she has to think that the first 7 seconds are going to be the impactful ones, because after that the attention span diminishes and we skip the ad. So this has to be kept in mind, and NEP is also understanding that apart from normal say theoretical education, experiential learning and skill education is going to be very important. In India, we don't have say dignity for labor. That means, tell me one thing very frankly, would I or you ever want our child to become a plumber or an electrician? No, we would want him or she to become an engineer, to become a doctor, not a nurse, maybe. This is the sight which we have to shed. You know, we say that there is unemployability. There is no unemployability in my mind. Unemployability is just because, number one, we don't want to pursue those professions for which our child is made, and we don't want our child to be underemployed. That means during the COVID period, for example, I'll give you another example. There was scarcity of jobs. We have a very big school of pharmacy. So what happened was, when the students were not getting jobs worth 25 to 40,000 rupees, which they usually got during the non-pandemic era, I told them, getting the first job is not important. It is developing the career path which is more important. So even if you are getting a job worth only 15,000 right now, go ahead and take it. This is a time when you can learn the most. Because in this period, there is a sudden change of creativity. There is a sudden change in innovation. How? When the pandemic had started, just believe me, India was not producing a single PPE kit. We were all exporting it from that same country which I have named earlier. All ventilators were being imported from there. What happened? In the first 4 months of the pandemic, we were producing more than 4 lakh PPE kits every month, ventilators of our own, generic medicines of our own. How does this happen? that means we were in a comfort zone. And we thought that cost was the only effective thing which would be acceptable to our masses. It was not like that. Our masses are, we have understood the fact that we have to make in India, just like the Honorable Prime Minister said. We have to produce our own things and try to lower the cost. We also have cheap labor. It is not that we don't have, but we have to manage it. So there are so many things which the national education policy talks about. A national repository of high quality resources on foundational literacy and numeracy will be made available. Say on the digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing, Diksha. Okay. Enjoyable and inspirational books for students at all levels will be developed by using high quality translation technology assisted as needed in local and Indian languages. Now there is another catch in that in my mind. For example, in management or engineering education, we talk about translating it into a regional language. No, translation is not the aspect. I think it should be. We should rewrite it in the local context. Because just translating a particular theory would still not make our student understand as he or she links it with the environment around him or her. For example, in management, I'll tell you, for example, there's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs in which it says that every individual has to look after the sociological needs first, physiological needs first, then go for security needs, then go for self-esteem. These are all given in the ancient scriptures of our own culture. We simply have to derive it from them. So it is not talking about either religion, caste, creed, color, anything. It is what the legacy we have in terms of a civilization. So we should try to, even in Western countries like Europe and say in USA, the Indian scriptures have been used to formulate many theories and many axioms. And this is put on paper. So with the help of technology and innovation, say the NEP says that open and distance learning programs offered by NIOS, the National Institute of Open Schooling, and state open schools will also be expanded. Now, to close the gap in achievement of learning outcomes, classroom transactions will shift towards competency-based learning and education. So what will become more important right now is that even the faculty members have to upgrade themselves and upskill themselves. Even at my age, when initially the pandemic started, I think I was very at a very low ebb in terms of understanding the actual technology which is relevant today. But in the past 1.5 years, I have learned so much. I can tell you with pride that I learned it from the young faculty members in my institutions because they were savvy in that, from my students in the classrooms. I called them and I asked them to help me out. So I have learned many things in this past 1.5 years. Now, high performing, then again, there's a difference that universities will also be say divided between teaching universities, research universities, and say autonomous degree colleges. Then apart from health universities and all, every university will become multidisciplinary. They will have to teach all the subjects. You know why? Because if we have only one particular subject in one particular university, for example, we have an engineering department and a management. We don't have pharmacy, we don't have architecture, we don't have say humanities and social science, then the student will not be able to make best use of other subjects like, for example, sports, as I was talking about. How he or she can take a sports course when there is not available at that institution. So all institutions have gradually have to become multidisciplinary and in nature. Now, in order to promote, say, creativity, institutions and faculty will have the autonomy to innovate on matters of curriculum, for example, pedagogy, assessment, within a broad framework of higher educational qualification. So we have been given quite an amount of freedom, the faculty members, to compress the course content and give our students the best possible project-based learning, experiential learning. So all these things we have to keep in mind. Now, in my opinion, what is required, we'll talk about NEP when you start asking, when we have interactions right now, what is required is a change of mindset. It is not only that we have to do everything as per the government guidelines. Yes, of course, the guidelines have to be followed. But, you know, as the implementation process goes on, what will happen is there will be sudden modifications during the process. That means everything will not fit everywhere. Therefore, the states have been given quite an amount of autonomy that when they start implementing NEP, they can just inform as to what sort of modification they would require for their own states. So these things will come up. And NEP implementation, nothing is as good as implemented. So implementation process is also going to be very tough. And who's going to implement it? Do you think the government will come and implement it for us? No. The government can give us guidelines. It is we, the institutional leaders, the institutional owners, the faculty members, the vice chancellors, deans, HODs, professors, associate professors, the environment, student, industry, all will have to come together if you want the implementation to be done in a positive aspect. So now education must not only develop the cognitive skills in the learners. We talk about cognitive skills only, but foundational skills of literacy and numeracy and the high order cognitive skills like critical thinking. These are all there. We talk about this, but we have also to talk about social and emotional skills known as soft skills like empathy, grit, perseverance, leadership, teamwork. Now this NEP calls for such value-based learning along with a significant curriculum and pedagogical changes which are needed. Now these pedagogical changes are tough and they need to be reimagined for any successful implementation of the NEP. So we as faculty members have to reimagine what the student wants. Now we talk about training the educators, we talk about rethinking assessment. Assessment and evaluation will also have to change. Because when we talk about online learning, when we talk about offline learning, and we compress it into hybrid learning, personally, I think a more appropriate term is not hybrid, because that compulsorily includes both of them. It is more likely high flex, which is highly flexible learning. You can have a flipped classroom also. You can have an online classroom. You can talk to the students concerned. Then we have to talk about raising the bar for the teachers. As teachers, we have to raise ourselves. We have to raise the level of our knowledge, of our competence. That has to be done by us alone. Nobody can do it for us. Then let's not talk about funding, because being in a private institution, we don't get funding from the government, though the NEP says that the government will treat the government educational institutions as well as private educational institutions with the same criteria in every aspect. So let's hope and see that very soon, what we call about rote learning, for example, which has become an education model in the past few years, the Indian psyche we should not start associating jobs only with degrees. We should start associating careers with skills. That would make a difference. I always say it is not the job which is important for any student. It is mapping a career path in the next 10 years, exactly what you become. That would be more important for the student. Now, talking about multidisciplinary education, talking about digital connectivity, there's so many things we have talked about. Now, we provide opportunities to attract a more diverse student body by having international partnerships. Have we talked about how the government or the NEP talks about internationalization? I don't think right now we have talked about it, but I would like to tell you very frankly that internationalization is one process which the NEP says that we must promote. If we want to go international, we must promote our traditional courses like yoga, health sciences, Ayurveda, maybe not all of them immediately, but of course we can try our best to promote as many of them as possible. Now, international universities, the top 100 universities are supposed to come to India. As the NEP says, they can come. But many people are very scared. Many of our institutional leaders are scared as to why, if these institutions come, then what will happen to us? No, it is not that. It will give us the impetus to grow, to come up to a better standard. And secondly, I'll tell you one more thing. What my particular perception is, when a particular section of the Indian student or a Chinese student goes to the United States or Western Europe or anywhere else, he or she will do a particular course there on a particular fee structure. When these universities come to India, the fee structure will be reduced by at least 75%. That means they will have to pay only 25% for the same course. Moreover, what will also happen is the same course structure will not be taught here. That we can be very sure of. It has to be customized according to the regional level situation. Why? The students who are going abroad are not those students who belong to the average section of the society. They are mostly either affluent or are very brilliant who have scholarships in their form. So these are the section of students who are going outside. Now, what will happen is here, when these organizations come to India, they will customize it according to us. Like we have seen the examples of McDonald's and Domino's who have started producing samosas and aloo tikkis here after coming to India. So how did this happen? Because they were forced to customize themselves. So these are the small things which I would talk about. Then once you start with some question and answers or some, I will again talk about something which the Honorable Prime Minister has said. But
Yeah,
not right.
thank you. Thank you, Professor Dr. Abhay Kumar. So actually, Sir has mentioned it's an eye-opening regarding new education policy. So my concern, as I am focusing on a common topics, I will be asking questions relevant to that. We can take the case of engineering, medicine, law, pharmacy, arts and science, management altogether. As you have mentioned, the new education policy as well as ICT is now focusing on universal human values, as well as human values and basic law, then management, basic technology. It has to be incorporated in all streams of education, whether you are from engineering, pharmacy, medicine, dental, Ayurveda, or hotel management, or whatever it may be. A citizen must know basic concept regarding management, basic law, then language as a part. So what is your opinion regarding
Regarding the language part, as I told you that the course curriculum, the basic course curriculum has to be taught to the student. Without that, I'll give an example. Once a colleague of mine who later on went on to become CEO of Reliance Retail, he's no more now, sadly. I had called him as chief guest to one of the conferences in the organization where I was in earlier. One of the students raised his hand and said, can you give us 3 mantras on the basis of which we can be successful? He said, hard work, comma, hard work, comma, hard work. So people asked him, why not smart work? He said, you can become smart only after you work hard and gain the conceptual framework of the subject. Or whatever framework you have in mind, whatever career you have in mind, you must first gain basic knowledge of that. So the course curriculum in whichever language it can be taught, must be taught. There are right now it's going to be very difficult because all the books we have are in English language and mostly written by Western authors. And even if the Indian authors have participated in that, they still have a outlook towards what the theories they have been given earlier also in the Western books. So it has to be say all the faculty members, senior professors also have to come together to rewrite these books in the Indian context. This is how things can happen, whether it is hotel management. If you go to a hotel in India or a restaurant in India, and you go there, I've been to the United States, for example, the entire, say, hospitality structure is quite different anywhere. The food habits are different. Everything is different. So you have to customize everything according to the Indian taste, Indian perception, Indian culture. So that is how anyone progresses. That is how Germany and Japan bounced back after the Second World War and even the First World War, Germany and Italy. So we have to have our own culture in mind and develop things slowly and gradually. And NEP talks about it. It talks about foundational literacy and numeracy. That means every student right from the primary section of the school level must start thinking in terms of their own local language. When you teach a student a color, for example, if you relate it with whatever color is there in the vegetation outside, I think he or she learns better. So that is how things have to be. This is my contention, sir.
And regarding the involvement of basic law, I mean, in the higher education sector, basic law, basic management concept, basic psychological concept, because nowadays we can see learning in an institution, they're learning, they're understanding the concept, they're writing the examination or clearing a competitive examination while going into a job as they're climbing the ladders to the top or topmost of an industry or an organization, whatever it may be. When a situation like facing a challenge or something like that, they must develop a mental stability also. In such a case, the stability can be molded or nurtured within the higher education scenario, like involving some psychological concepts or how to people management skills or understanding basic law and order. It will be also varying between the countries. And we are very much evident that most of the Indian students now, when they are going abroad, they are in a stable position. So that shows that we are having a good manpower of good learning capability and understanding capability. Only thing is that we have to provide the opportunities or create the opportunities within our country. So what is
Exactly.
your, yeah.
Dr. Harikrishnan, there are 3 or 4 aspects to this. One is that India is not the same as it was 40 years back. Okay, when I did my MBA, I could do a job only in marketing and I had a very tough time in finding an organization. Now there is ample opportunity, whether it's the sports sector, whether it is the health sector, whether it's anything. We have opportunities in India also now. And that is why people are just reversing right from where they have been working in the United States also. They are coming back to India now because there is opportunity here. You know, when you talk about unicorn in the past few years, those organizations which have come up as startups, you will find that 2020 and 2021 have maximum unicorns in India. So how did this happen? You know, as I said, we have to change the mindset. The thought process exactly has to be changed. You rightly said, sir, that every student must be equipped with a basic general awareness. That
Yes,
means whether it is law, like for example, I have held many webinars for my students in the university from acclaimed lawyers and other law firms who would tell them, who talk to them, and the students of law would then go out into the environment and tell the local level people what rights and duties they have, even through videos, that if somebody comes and makes an arrest, what are your rights in terms of that. So everything has to be educated to the masses. We don't exactly know, even the most learned and the degree holders like us, we are not fully aware of what law have benefits and negatives are there for us. So we have to tell it to the students, our own children, and we have to start thinking beyond our own biological children only. We have to start thinking of other children who are there as our own children. And this is the basic tenet of the Guru Shishya Parampara, which we had in ancient India, that every Guru had Shishyas whose say inherent say talent or latent talent they understood so well that they brought them out. For example, why did Bhim only become a Gadadhari? Why did Arjun become an archer? Because the Guru found the basic talent within them. So we as Gurus, we have to become mentors and Gurus apart from simple teachers. And we have to learn and give our students, as you said, some psychologists may be brought in, and they can also counsel students and counsel even faculty members, I must say. Even I need counseling from time to time. You know, so every individual has to be counseled, especially the students who are at a very tender age, and they have many more areas where their concentration can divert to. So we have to tell them exactly what is good for them. That is point number 1. Now, point number 2 would be that once they go out into the actual world, they find things to be very different from what they were living in their own families in a suburb or within a particular institution or university. There they were so cozy with the environment that never thought that things would change. So we have to give them the idea that how things will change. And most importantly, I'll tell you one more thing. What I personally tell my students is, there is an experiment which was made in Stanford University long back by Walter Mischel. It is known as the marshmallow test in management. What happened was a class of say 30 or 40 was given a particular task and 2 marshmallows. We can compare it with say 2 laddus, for example. If you give them 2 sweets and say, once you complete the task, you can have these 2 sweets. But if you wait for the teacher to return, we will give you 4. So what happened was everything was being watched, what was happening in the classroom through a camera, for example. And it was found that more than 85 to 90% of the students ate the 2 marshmallows which were given to them. Only about 10 or 12% waited for delayed gratification. What I want to tell and these 10-15 students, as the research shows, went on to excel better in life, irrespective of the fact how much marks they had got. So what will happen is, don't go in for immediate rewards. Always think about delayed gratification. That means wait for the opportune moment in which you have to act. And for example, when we talk about Make in India or entrepreneurship, of course, we have to teach them management subjects, accounting, finance, everything. But most importantly, we have to create an entrepreneurial mindset. Why is it that most of the startups fail in the first 3 years? This is what the research shows. Because everything has been done well on paper. The business plan was good. The venture capitalist gave them capital. What happened was the mindset was different. the objective with which that startup came up was different from what it should have been. So these things have to be kept in mind, sir.
Exactly, sir. So the other thing, according to the new education policy, we can incorporate like arts or sports with a professional degree or whatever it may be. Can it be possible like engineering with a combination of law or pharmacy with a combination of engineering? Because technology as a prime factor, we know that everything is now on technical platform. Whatever it may be, or whomever it may be, or doing a business or management law, whatever it may be, we must be quite sound in the current scenario or the update ourselves with the technology. So with the help of some new application or new as sir has mentioned, like artificial intelligence, getting a like for example in medicine also we can see diagnosing using artificial intelligence or the robotic surgery is coming into picture nowadays. So there is a huge revolution going to happen. So what is your concept regarding this? Adding some technical knowledge among all the profession and incorporating the other
Yes.
also, like combination.
Yes, very true. Very true, sir. And this is exactly what the national education policy says. You know, there is another aspect I'll tell you. If a student wants to have different courses, for example, I said sports, music, then he can have AI. Suppose one institution is not teaching AI in BTech or cyber security. He suddenly goes in and have a sports subject. He goes in and has another different subject in psychology. Now that student cannot be given a degree of Bachelor of Engineering, for example. Okay. He or she will be awarded with a Bachelor of Liberal Education. If he or she goes in for different courses, entirely different courses, just to upgrade and become attuned to the environment and strive better in life, he or she can have a bachelor's degree in liberal education. If he or she has different subjects to study, doesn't want simply only one technical subject. A student doing arts, for example, bachelor in arts, he or she can study AI in one of the engineering colleges. Go and do that particular subject. He gathered credits for that. He or she can go and study mechanical engineering courses somewhere. But the point is, if he or she doesn't satisfy the entire structure of the program, he or she will get a degree in bachelor's of liberal education instead of either technical education or arts. So that is the thing which has again been given as an opportunity to the concerned student by the NEP.
That flexibility among the state universities or the national premier institution should also happen.
Yeah, that is the catch which I said, in which I am a little doubtful, that only NAC accredited institutions can foster mobility to other NAC accredited or NIRF top 100 institutions. What about the majority? You know, in India, we have almost 1,000 plus universities. We have almost 47,000 plus institutes and colleges of higher education, 14 lakh faculty members in them. Just imagine, are all NAC accredited right now? No, many are not at all accredited by NAC. What about them? Are they going to shut down? No. I think we have created mentors for them. There are certain institutions we have been named as mentors to mentor them so that they upgrade their quality. But the point is, when we talk about equal opportunity of education, you go to a village, in a remote village in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, if you come to these two states sometimes, I feel the students lack so much in terms of affordability and accessibility of internet itself, that how can they study online if we don't give them the opportunity to better themselves at that level? How can they compete with those in IIMs and ITs? They cannot right now till we give them the opportunity. So that is what it has to be.
Exactly. And coming into other point, we are having a lot of distance education now, school of distance education of some of the renowned universities, state universities, NAC, A+ grade universities. So a person pursuing a degree in this distance education, when it coming along with this new education policy, what is going to be the impact of the open universities or distance education in the coming scenario?
Yeah, actually, I have just told before also that the government is going to promote open and distance learning. Why? As I said, if somebody is pursuing a particular job, he or she cannot do a regular course every time. So distance education and open learning would be a viability for those people who are in a job. For example, a farmer even who is doing farming and wants to study something, he or she cannot attend classes regularly from morning to evening. So for them, open and distance learning are a boon. They can do a particular course, even I would say certificate courses also. These certificate courses are also online a boom. We see that in terms of many courses there are in MOOCs. Many of our faculty members have done certain MOOCs courses on Coursera, on certain other thing. They want to upgrade themselves. They want to learn some technical skills, for example, which they are not aware of. So it is of course going to be it is being given an impetus now, open and distance learning, and it should be also keeping in
Sir,
view
one
that
one doubt regarding that. Other than the certificate program, for example, a person interested in doing an MBA or a LLB or like part-time engineering or some medical course, and all these cases, the professional degree, they are always focusing on full-time, a regular basis. So when it comes to an competence way or getting an opportunity on a public platform, how this gap can be reduced?
no, I'll tell you, for example, if you talk about Bachelor of Engineering, BTech, for example, there are labs which have to be done. Okay. For example, if you talk about B Pharmacy, there are labs inevitable which have to be done. Otherwise, the student will not learn anything. So what can be done is, for example, if we have a certain section of students who are pursuing BTech and we teach them theory online, we can either call them to our institution or arrange something in the place where they are, where they can go and do certain laboratory work also. Because without having a experiential learning in terms of lab, I don't think there are certain courses which can be awarded any degree. This is my personal thinking.
Regarding management and LLB also, the projects or some code, the
Yeah,
other thing can be done through distance or on, right?
exactly.
Okay, so it was a great session with you, sir. So I itself not feeling to close this session because it's like a lot of questions, lot of answers coming from you. It's an ever-ending process. So as you have mentioned, the flexibility or adaptability must happen and will happen soon. And India is having a good manpower as the more resource people are here. And we are having a lot of people moving from India after +2 nowadays for developing a career in most of the Western countries. But more or less, India is one of the best place with a lot of opportunities, which is we can see in and everywhere. But we have to find it and transform it into a resourceful way. That's the only thing we have to see. So thank you for spending your valuable time. Thank you, sir, once again. Have a nice day. So it was a great session, and we'll be having further discussions in the upcoming days or the months to come. And we can hope that this new education policy will create a great revolution in our country. So let's hope for the best. Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
so much, Dr. Hari Krishna. It's my privilege to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.